Okay, so we're doing chapter 24 of my new book, Overcoming ACT Math. If you're interested in purchasing it, it will be available on Amazon within the next day or so. Right now, when I'm recording this, it's August 5th. So let's get started by just saying, remember, check the description for any updates, because over time I might add like example links to example problems or like other videos that I would find helpful for you, things like that. And then also I wanted to go over just a few things you need to be aware of before you start doing problems on percentages. So just remember, first of all, that this percent symbol means out of 100. So like if I say 20%, I really mean 20%, like 20 out of 100 is what that little symbol means. You can kind of remember it also because the percent sign kind of looks like a 100. I don't know, that's like a trick that I've heard from some students. And then also remember, if you want to find the percent of a number, so we're finding the percent of, let's say, like 320, like some percent of 320, let's say it's 20% of 320. What you would have to do is you just turn the percent into a decimal by moving it over 2 to the left. You can also think, okay, this is 20 over 100, so like in your calculator, it'll make it a decimal for you if you forget which way that you're supposed to go, which is to the left to make it a decimal. But if you just use the trick of 2 bunny hops to the left, this turns into 0.20 or 0.2, either one works, times whatever the number is that you're taking the percent of. Now, also percent change is another thing you have to be aware of. Now, on my in my book, what I do, let me just show you guys really quick. I just don't want anybody to be confused. There's 2 different ways to think about percent change. So one of the ways is that you think about it like this, which is the way that I have it in chapter 4 in the formula sheet. So the reason I do it like this is because I already know to move the decimal 2 to the right at the end. And a lot of students do, like, they don't like to put the extra 100 with it. So you could think about it like this. The percent change is like the change over the original. Or you could think about it as you also times by 100 if you don't already know to move the decimal 2 to the right after. So technically, if you want to be like exact, this change over original times 100, if you don't already know to move the decimal. But let's get started now with some of these problems. So it says 80 is 25% of what number? So remember, percent just means out of 100. So this is saying that 80 is equal to 25% of some mystery number, which we'll call x. Remember, to find the percent of a number, you just turn that percent into a decimal. So 25% as a decimal would be 0.25 times that number, which we're calling x. So then all we need to do is divide each side by 0.25 to solve for what x is. And that would give us that x is 320. What textbook is good for algebra? I'm in Calculus 3, struggling with basic algebra and trig. So if you want to include trig and stuff, I would get my new ACT book because it has more trig than the SAT one. And it has like a lot of like little like formula sheets like this of like basic stuff that like is just all put into one thing for you to remember. And it has extra formula sheets that the SAT one doesn't have, like some of the graphing stuff and like the asymptote stuff. And like see like different trig stuff that you might have forgotten. So I would get the ACT version of my book when it comes out. It should be available within the next day or so. Amazon has it like in review now to approve printing it. So then let's go to number 2. So 200 is what percent of 10? So 200 over 10 is equal to what percent of 10? Because remember, percent is just out of 100. So what percent, which percent is just out of 100, is 200 of 10? So like 200 matches with the x percent that we're solving for, and 10 matches with the whole. You can think of this as part over whole as well. Like the part over the whole equals the part over the whole that we're talking about. So then what we're going to do is cross multiply. So we're just going to do 200 times 100 is equal to 10x, and then just divide each side by 10. So we're dividing by 10, it cancels out there. So when you do that, what you're going to get is going to be 2000J. So for number 3, it says 45, what is 45% of 400? So we're taking percent of a number again. Remember, percent of a number just multiplied by the decimal and the number. So we're going to turn the percent to a decimal by bunny hopping 2 to the left. So it's going to be 0.45 times the number we're taking the percent of, which is 400. So then that's going to be equal to 180. Yes, Tabitha, correct. So now let's go to number 4. 25 is what percent of 500? Thanks for liking and sharing the live, guys. So 25 is the part we're talking about out of 500. And that's going to be equal to what percent? So remember, percent is over 100, like the percent sign means out of 100. So 25 over 500 is equal to x over 100. So we're going to cross multiply and we're going to get 25 times 100. And you could already see this, like some people can already figure this out in their head, but I'm showing like the full version right now. And then we're doing 500x when we cross multiply there. Then we have to divide each side by 500. And then we're going to get that x is equal to, in this case, it would be I can't even say it, 5 and letter choice G. Okay, so then let's go to number 5. These are the easier ones because it's like working you up to work with like the word problem stuff. So then let's go to number 5, which is 120% of what number is equal to 36. So 100, remember, percent of a number. So 120%, if we're taking a percent of some mystery number, 120%, if we move the decimal 2 to the left, is going to be 1.2. To find a percent of a number, this is a mystery number we're calling x. To find percent of a number, we do the decimal times that number. And they said that that's equal to 36. So now we just need to divide each side by 1.2. And that's going to give us that x is equal to 30, which is C. So these are for, what is the pen? Everyone always asks that. I swear I should be like sponsored by them at this point. Papermate Inkjoy Gel 0.7. It's like the best pen ever. Okay, so then the age that it's for, someone just asked, this is for ACT Math, which you usually take as a like a junior in high school. Or you could take it later too, or earlier, or whatever, but that's like the typical time. Okay, so then let's go to number 6. It says, toy company sells multicolored toys. Multicolored toys trigger playful instincts in 70% of children. Toy company just came out with a new multicolored toy ball. Before the new multicolored toy ball is released to the general public, toy company is going to see how well this new toy performs with a random selection of 300 children. What is the expected number of children that will not play with the multicolored ball? So whenever I see like not or accept on these exams, I like to circle it just because like you'd be surprised how many people answer in the affirmative rather than the negative on these, just to like, even if they are like bolded and everything or uppercased. So we have to remember that it's what we're looking for the children that are not going to play with the ball. So they expect 70% of children to play with the ball. So that means that 30% of children are not playing with the ball. So 30% as a decimal would be 0.30 times the 300. So then we would just do 0.30 times 300, and that's going to give us 90, which would be H. Yes, it's technically just subtraction because you're thinking of like 100% minus 70%. So 100% minus 70% would be 30%, which is 0.30 as a decimal. So now let's go to the next one. So this is saying, thanks for the likes and shares, guys. So number 7 says, Mary's family spent 15% more buying groceries in 2020 than they did in 2019. The family spent 40% more buying groceries in 2021 than they did in 2020. For this time period, what was the overall percentage change? Okay, so let's see. We're going to set this up. Let's say that they spend, let's use like a scenario. So let's say that they spent, in 2019, they spend $100. So then in 2019, they spent $100. So then in 2020, they spend 15% more. So then we'll say you could do like 0.15 times 100 and then add that to 100 if you want to. But I can do this in my head because it's just, I use an easy number, 100. So then I would say that that's just $15 more. So then it's going to be 115. You can also do 115% of 100, so 1.15 times 100, and then you don't have to add anything. It just goes straight to that answer. Either way, all these would work. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, now we're going to 2021, and they're going to spend 40% more on groceries than they did in 2020. So 40% more, again, you could do 0.40 times 115, then add that to 115, but I prefer to do it like the whole way, where I'm saying, okay, if they're spending 40% more, that's really 140%, of this number 115. So if I make that into a decimal, it's 1.4 times 115. And then when I multiply that out, I'm going to get 161. So they're spending $161 in 2021. Now we want to know the percent change. So percent change is just the change over the original times 100. So the change from 2019 to 2021 would be 161 minus 100 over the original, which is 100. And then you could do the times 100 if you want to use that formula, or you could just remember that you're moving the decimal 2 to the right if you want to leave the 100 out. Either way works. So then we're going to get 61 over 100 times 100, and that's just going to be 61. So it's 61% B. Wait, I see why it's not 55. I think since, oh, someone already figured, since 2021 stat is based on, yeah, so you have to remember that it's 40% more than 2020, not 2019. Thank you guys for sharing and liking the live. If you want to see this later, I upload all these onto my YouTube channel later on because they do correspond with the chapters in my book. So don't worry if you missed a problem. You can always go back and check that. I'm a little behind on uploading videos, but they do all eventually get uploaded. So then let's go to number 8. Sam increased his video game high score by 20%. His new high score was 25% less than Kelly's high score of 36 points. Given the scenario, which of the following is closest to Sam's previous score? Okay, so Sam increased his high score by 20%. So then let's say it's 1.2 times X. And then it's going to be, his new high score is equal to 25% less than Kelly's high score of 36 points. So 25% less would be 75% of 36. So that would be 0.75 times 36. So this is the setup of our equation based off of what they've given us here. And we're just solving for what X is here. So now we just need to divide each side by 1.2 and then plug it into our calculator. Because remember on the ACT you do get a calculator. And then what we're going to get for X is going to be 22.5. And it says which of the following is closest to this. So we don't see exactly 22.5, but we're trying to get what's closest to that. So that would be G. Someone asked, how did I get 1.2? Oh, because it says by 20%. He increases video game score by 20%. So it's 120% of X, the score. So 120% as a decimal would be 1.2. That's how I got that. Thank you guys for the likes and shares. Okay, so let's go to number 9. A few decades ago, the price of a gallon of milk was $2. Now it is $4. By what percentage has the price changed? So again, this is percent change. So you just need to know the change over the original times 100. So the change would be 4 minus 2 over the original, which is 2, times 100. So then that's just 2 over 2 times 100, which is just 1 times 100, which is just 100%. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the live. Remember, the best way that you can support my channel is by either purchasing my book on Amazon. I have 2 books. One of them still in review, but one of them is out, the SAT book. And also, you can get it for free on Kindle Unlimited. And I would really love to start seeing reviews of it because that would really make me feel great. So if you guys could review it on Kindle Unlimited, because you don't even have to purchase it if you have a Kindle Unlimited, that would be great. And yeah. So let's keep going. This is number 10. Oh, someone asked what page is this? So in my ACT book, this would be page 184. So then for people asking for re-explanations, these all get uploaded to YouTube later. So just you'll be able to see it again. So then, and do I have a book for 11th grade math? This is actually, a lot of this is like the math that you'll be taking in 11th grade, depending on like what math you are, because the exams go over algebra 1, algebra 2 stuff, pre-calc stuff. So if you want the stuff with the most amount of topics, I would get the ACT book, which it should come out in the next day or 2. Amazon's still approving it. So then let's go to number 10. It says a shop owner was advised by a consultant to increase the price of her products by 10%. She wasn't paying attention instead she marked down all prices by 10%. If a watch was initially priced at $120, what is the difference between the price that the consultant advised and the actual price of price that the shop owner set. Okay, so we're going to say the consultant, right, said that you need to increase your prices by 10%. So increasing by 10% means that the consultant is saying we're talking about 110% of the number. The number in question is 120 in this case. So we have to take 110% of 120, which as a decimal, 110% would just be 1.1 because we move it 2 to the left. So this is what the consultant is saying that you should have done. And then that would be $132. Now the owner, so I'm going to put C for consultant and O for owner. So the owner said, okay, I have this $120, what is it, a watch? But I accidentally marked it down by 10%. So if you're going down by 10%, you're going to be talking about 90% of something. Because like 100% is you have all of it, you subtract 10% would be 90%. So it would be 0.90. And then what we're going to do now is we're going to multiply these. And when you multiply those, you're going to get $108. So it's asking what's the difference between these. So the difference would be you just subtract these. So 132 minus 108, and that's going to be 24. And then that would be G. Where do you keep getting the 100 from? So 100% is just when you have the whole thing. So whenever you're talking about like in this case, I got 110 because it's going up by 10%. The whole thing would be 120. And then, so you have 100% of it when you're saying 120. You're going up by 10%. If you're going up by 10%, then you're talking about 110% of it. So that's how I'm getting like these numbers and how I'm referencing 100. 100 just means you have the whole thing. So 100 is like the whole original amount that you start with or that you have. And then however you change that, that's you going up or down by that amount. So if you're going up by 10%, you're talking about you have 110% now. If you're going down by 10%, you have 90% because you don't have 100%. You're going down by 10% and you have 90%. Okay, so then let's go to the next one, which is, let me just move this so it's out of the way. What's my YouTube? It's the same as this, AG Tutoring. So then right now we have use the scatter plot below to answer questions 11 through 12. The scatter plot below, scatter plot shows how far John could throw a ball measured in feet at different ages. Which of the following is closest to John's percent change in distance from age 12 to age 18? So let's look at age 12. It doesn't really show up on the camera as well, but this is like, there's little like gray marks, like this is an exact lineup with right here. So this is going by twos, like this is 20 to 22 to 24 to 26 to 28 to 30. So right here it's lining up with, that would be at the 26 mark for 12. So I'm going to mark this with 26. And then for 18, it's going to be lining up with, that's 2 below 50, so that's going to be 48 right here. So if we want to calculate the percent change, it's going to be the change, 48 minus 26 over the original amount, 26 times 100. So then when we do all of that, let's see, we're going to get 84.61 yada, yada, yada. So 84.62 is the closest, so A. Okay, so then let's go to number 12. When John turned 18, his coach set a new goal that was 15% higher than his best throw so far. What was his new goal? Okay, so he turned 18, and at 18 we know that he was doing the 48 feet, right? But now we don't want 48 feet, we want 15% higher than that. So remember, when you have the whole thing that you're talking about, this is 100% that we're talking about. He has 48. If we want to go 15% higher than that, so we're talking about 115% of 48 to go 15% higher. So then it would be 1.15, because you do this as a decimal by moving it 2 to the left, the decimal 2 to the left, times the number you're taking the percent of. So it would just be 1.15 times 48, and that's going to be 55.2 H. Someone asked, is this ACT or SAT? This is for the ACT exam, but a lot of the stuff applies to SAT as well. So let's go to number 13. Actually, it applies so much that like some of the questions I actually, like if I thought something was a great question in my SAT book, I applied it to here. Like most of the questions are completely different, but like for instance, this actually happens to be like a problem that I thought was a really good problem for the ACT as well. So I put it in this book as well too. So then let's go to number 13. Given the difference between a particular number and 15 is equal to 90% of that number, what is the mystery number? So if we're writing this as an equation, it would be the mystery number, which we'll call x, minus 15, because the difference between x and 15 is how we would write that, x minus 15, because difference is subtraction, is equal to 90% of that mystery number. So to take percent of the number, it's that percent as a decimal. So that would be 0.90 times this mystery number x. So now all we have to do is get our x's together. So this is just x minus 15, and then again is equal to 0.9x. So we want to get our x's together on one side. So we're going to subtract x from each side. It's going to cancel out there. So then we have negative 15. Thanks for liking and sharing the live, guys. Negative 15 is equal to negative 0.10x, and then you just divide by negative 0.10 on each side, and that's going to give you that x is equal to 150, which would be E. Okay, so let's go to the next one. So for, let's go to y 0.10. Someone asked y 0.10. Because 0.9 minus 1 is negative 0.10. So negative 0.10 is, like if you want to do it, you would get a calculator on the ACT, but I'll show you guys like how to do it without if you want. So this is basically saying like 0.9 minus 1.00. So you could plug that into your calculator and get negative 0.10, or you can think about it as you're just going to subtract and take the bigger in air quotation signs, like the one that if you're not looking at negatives and positives, which one's a bigger number, take that sign. When you're doing this, so you're just going to subtract. And this is also a video in chapter 3 where I explain all of the stuff with like the basic reviews of subtracting decimals and all of that, if you want to go look at that on YouTube. So what you do is you just subtract it, and when you subtract, you're going to get that that's 0.10, and then you just keep the sign of the bigger, again in quotation marks, number. So like if you're not looking at negatives and positives, the one that's bigger is 1, so you keep the negative sign that was with that. So then let's go to the next one, number 14. Let me get water really quick first, guys. Okay, so number 14 says, Alan purchases a jacket that is discounted by 15%. He has to pay an 8% sales tax. After the discount and sales tax are applied to the transaction, Alan owes the clerk $89.25. Which of the following equations could be used to figure out the original price of the jacket? So we want the original price of the jacket. This is something that I forget to bring up a lot. Also, make sure you're underlining what you find, what you need to find, just so you like don't find the wrong thing by accident. So that's like an overall test prep tip. So the jacket is discounted by 15%, and then he has to pay an 8% sales tax. So if it's discounted by 15%, that means you're paying 85%, because 100 minus 15, like if you have all of the jacket's price, like the regular original price, and then you're subtracting 15%, because it's discounted by 15%, you get 85% that you're paying. So it would be 85% of that original price, which we'll call X, but then you have to pay 8% sales tax. So you have to pay basically 108%, because 8% sales tax means like you're paying 8% more than you originally would, and the original amount is 100% of whatever you have. So then you're going to be taking 108% of all of this. So you want to look for an equation that matches with that. So let's see, if we look at which of the equations matches that, that would be J, because you're saying in decimal format, 108% would be 1.08, because you just move it to the left by 2. So 1.08, 108% of 85% of X, which is just 0.85X, so J. So then let's go to number 15, and it says, a small bookstore, thanks for liking and sharing the live, guys. A small bookstore has 30 extremely rare limited edition books. Of those limited edition books, 6 are nonfiction books, and the rest are fiction books. A nonfiction book costs 30% more than a fiction book. If a nonfiction book costs $13,000 each, then what is the closest to the average cost of a limited edition book, of a limited edition book, that should say, at this bookstore? Okay, So then let's see. So 6 are nonfiction books. So we have to say, okay, 6 nonfiction books would be 6 times 13,000, because they said each book is, each nonfiction book is $13,000. And then it would be plus, there's going to be 30 books in total. So then that means that if there's 6 nonfiction books, there's going to be 24 fiction books. So 24 fiction books times the price per fiction book, which we'll call X in this case. And then that has to add up to whatever the total amount is that they're paying. And then we can divide by the number of books to find the average price. So we need to figure out what this X is first. So this X is representing the price of each of the fiction books, which they said is going to be 30%, which a nonfiction book costs 30% more than a fiction book. So that means a nonfiction, which costs $13,000, is equal to 130% of the fiction book price. So 130% as a decimal would be 1.3 and then times X. So then to figure out X, the price of a fiction book, we're going to divide each side by 1.3. And when we do that, we get that X is equal to 10,000. So X, instead of saying X, we're going to say that that's 10,000. And that's going to give us the total cost of like every single book in the bookstore, because we have the 6 on nonfiction books and the 24 fiction books, and we're adding that up to get the total amount that all of these books are selling for in the bookstore. So when you do 6 times 13,000 plus 24 times 10,000, you're going to get 318,000. But then remember, we want the average price per book, so we have to divide by the number of books, because average is just the same thing as mean. So the mean is always equal to like the sum of all the data points you have. In this case, it would be like the prices of all the books divided by the number of data points or items that you're talking about, which in this case is 30 books. So that's why you're doing 318,000 divided by 30. Now, when you do that, what you're going to get is 10,600. So then it's going to be B. So let's go. Thanks for liking and sharing the live, guys. So number 16 says that Mike wants to buy himself a pair of new sneakers for his birthday that cost $150. Fortunately, Mike has a coupon for 15% off. How much will Mike pay for the shoes before sales tax? So it's going to cost $150 originally, but he has a coupon for 15% off. So if he was paying $150, he would be paying 100% the whole price, right? But he has a coupon, so he's going to be paying 15% off that price. So 15% off would mean that he's paying 85% of that original price, $150. Because 100 minus 15 is 85. So he's paying 85% of $150. Now the way that we take a percent of a number is we turn the percentage into a decimal by moving it to the left. So we say 0.85 times that number, which would be 150. And then when we multiply that out, we're going to get that that's 127.50. So that would be G. So then let's go to the next one. So it says, for a class project, a teacher decided to survey all 30 students in her class to find out how many siblings they had. The table up below shows the results for her survey. So this is the survey table results. Based on the table shown above, what is the expected value of the number of siblings that a student has in this classroom? So when they're talking about expected values in this way, what you do is you do the percent times each of these, basically. So you say like 20% have 0 siblings. So it would be 0 times 0.20, because 20% as a decimal is 0.20. Plus, and then you're going to say, okay, 20% of them have 1, so it's going to be 1 times 0.20. And then you're going to say the same thing, like 10% have 2, so it's going to be 2 siblings times the 0.10. And then you're going to say 30% of them have 3 siblings, so it's going to be 3 times the 0.30. And then I'm running out of room, but it's going to be also plus the 20% times the 4, so it's going to be 4 siblings times the 0.2 for 20%. So then what you're going to do is you're going to add all, or multiply all those and then add them all up. And what you should get is 2.1. So it would be C. Thank you guys for liking and sharing the live. Remember, if you want to support my channel, my book is available for free on Kindle Unlimited, the SAT version. And I would really like for some reviews to be coming in. So if you're using it and liking it, please remember to write a review. And then let's go to number 18. The price of gas this year is $3.50 per gallon, which is a 40% increase compared to the price last year. Why did you not count the 30%? Why did you not count the 30%? Wait. Why did you not count the 30% and 3? I did. It's right there. I just ran out of space, so I had to write it down there too. Okay, so then let's go to the next one. It says, number 18 says the price of gas this year is $3.50 per gallon, which is a 40% increase compared to the price last year. What is the price of gas last year? Okay, so $3.50 is equal to, there's a 40% increase, so from what you already have. So what you already have is 100%. And then you're increasing it by 40, so you're talking about 140% of the price last year. So we want 140%, and we'll call the price last year X. So we're talking about 140% of X. That as a decimal would be 1.4, 1.40 if you want to keep the 0, same thing, times the price last year, which we'll call X, gives us that $3.50 that it is this year. So now we're solving for X, the price last year. So all we have to do is divide each side by 1.4 to get X by itself. So when we divide each side by 1.4, we're going to get 2.5, which is G. Good job for everyone that said G. So let's go to number 9. Number 19, sorry. It says the local community, where'd you get 140? So 100% means you have everything, right? So if you're increasing by 40%, you would have to do 100% plus 40%. That's increasing by 40%. So then let's go to number 19. The local community center set up a speed dating event for singles in the community. In the table below, what is the percent of attendees? What percent of the attendees were men? Okay, so we want to know the percent of attendees that were men. So attended that were men is going to be 70. So we're talking about 70 out of the total amount of attendees that we're talking about is going to be 130 plus 70, because they're saying out of the percent of people attending is what we're talking about, the men attending that were attending. So it has to be 130 plus 70 as our total amount of people we're talking about, which would be 200. And then we just have to times that by 100 to get it to be a percentage. So then when we do all of that, 70 divided by 200 times 100, that's going to be 35%, so it's going to be B.